Welcome to another episode of Mr. Analyst. Of course, today we're talking basketball. And before going to that, just a reminder to subscribe, like, and share our content. As you know, we try to do everything on this channel. We got a bit of basketball today. We'll be doing some basketball throughout the course of the remainder of the year because some big things are happening for Jamaican basketball. And tonight, we're starting with the FIBA World Cup pre-qualifiers that were held between August 8th and 10th in Mexico, where Jamaica historically qualified for the qualifiers coming up in just a couple of months' time. Because joining me tonight is Kentan Facey, who plays his basketball in France and who was instrumental, among others, Norman Campbell and others, Romain, um, or what is Romain's last name? Let's get back to
Gil.
that. But yeah, who were so key to Jamaica creating this historical moment in the country's basketball. So, Kenton, thanks for joining us. Obviously, a big occasion for Jamaica, winning the first two games before losing to Mexico. There were reasons for that, but we'll get into that over the next 10 minutes or so. First of all, your impressions of how the team played and, your feelings about the outcome.
Right. So, first of all, I appreciate you having me on your platform here to share my experience with Jamaica basketball. It was a good experience for me. It was a great experience for the team. First time this accomplishment for us. We're happy to be in a position to fight on and give ourselves a chance to advance to the World Cup.
Mhm.
It down in Mexico, it was a challenge. These teams are teams that have experience, have been playing together, versus a Jamaican team that just coming in with heart, and that pride. We didn't have much time to kind of get a team together and have a lot of like chemistry and cohesion. We came together just before the tournament in Mexico for a training camp down in Florida. So that was the only time we got to really get to know each other. So it was great what we were able to do in such a short time.
Mhm. And of course, you had some immediate challenges because Josh Minot, who was supposed to be a member of the team, withdrew at the last minute for circumstances I'm not quite sure what they were. But the fact is that you had to be without him. You had Norman Campbell and Josh Minot, who were NBA players. Of course, not to diminish the contributions of guys like yourself and others who play in Europe and elsewhere. But certainly losing Josh Minot would have been a significant blow to the setup of the team.
Right. We had guys for some reason or another, had to take a step back from the team. I
Close going. It was close going for a while before you guys blew the game out. You had 15 points, and I'm trying to remember how many points, but you had a big impact on that game as well. Talk to me about that game. Did that game help in any way to help to gel the team? Because as you mentioned, there wasn't much time for you to build that chemistry. Did the Barbados game allow you guys to do that?
I think it allowed us to realize we could compete at that level because Barbados is a team that has been at that level for numerous years, right? Versus
Mhm.
Jamaica, who's kind of new on the block. We've had teams in the past. I'm not saying basketball was non-existent in Jamaica, but we've had teams in the past, and it's been a while since we were on this stage versus a team that has the experience of playing at that level. It showed us that we could compete with these teams, so it just gave us that extra sense of not, I wouldn't say confidence because we're coming in believing we could beat these teams, but it shows us when we saw the result that okay, this is possible. We have to take care of business, and then we could give ourselves a chance.
As I mentioned at the outset, the scores were close going into the third quarter, and then you guys blew the game out. What changed in terms of the setup? What in terms of the execution that made Jamaica eventually separate themselves that way, eventually winning 101 to 72?
Right. I believe when you see games like that, especially breaking the game open in the second half, there are adjustments being made, at halftime, going into the end of the game, you're certain things that you might adjust, say, okay, this is how they're attacking, this is how we need to attack them. So I feel like a lot had to do with our coaching staff saying, okay, this is the game plan now. We came in with a game plan, as the game is going on, you might have to adjust that depending on which player gets hot, stuff like that. So I feel like it had more to do with our coaching staff saying, okay, this is what we will do. This is how we'll approach the rest of this game. And obviously we have a talented guy on our team. Everyone's talented, but we have a guy who's playing in the NBA that commands a different level of respect. So their coverage on him allowed us to take advantage of weaknesses that might come up based on them being extra aggressive with guarding Norm.
Romain Thomas had a big game. He shot 80% from the floor, and I think
Right,
he was almost perfect from the free throw line. Talk to us a bit about his impact on the game in the context of the expectation from onlookers that Norman Campbell will probably be carrying the load because he's the NBA star. He just moved to Miami. All the news around him is that he's the guy who probably the team will coalesce around. But talk to
right.
me about how Romain took that game over. 20 points, big performance on the on the outing.
Right. Speaking of Romando, I think he misspoke. He said Norman Campbell. I just want to make sure
Yeah,
we clarify that I
yeah,
said
yeah,
Norman
yeah, yeah,
Powell
yeah.
just
No,
for
Norman
anybody
Powell, sorry.
watching. Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
my
right,
bad.
right.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's okay. I understand. But what Romain, it's a guy that I've known for a while. We spoke in passing on social media. He's a kid that's in New York City playing in some of the toughest tournaments. So I know the type of player he is. He's tough. He's a really good player. So what he brings to that team is that level of experience because he has represented Jamaica on the
Mhm,
international level before, whether that might be 3x3 or under or a lower 5-on-5 team other than the men's senior team. So he
mhm,
came in, we know he's an all-rounder. He could shoot the three, he could drive the basketball, obviously he could make his free throws, so he could score at all three levels. His impact for us was, coming in like I said, guys are going to play extra aggressive on Norm. So now it's going to be 4-on-4 essentially. And then that kind of takes away a help side. So if you run a ball screen and he's involved in any way, there probably won't be any help for him. So he's being able to take advantage of that opportunity. And he did a great job, setting the tone for us. Like you said, everyone is expecting the guy to really take over. But, if teams are smart, they're going to try to neutralize that in any way they can. And that will open up some type of weakness on the defense, which Romain obviously took advantage of.
mhm. Talk to me about your game, though, because you didn't play too badly yourself. I mean, it was off to a slow start, but certainly
Right.
as the game went on, you got yourself more immersed into the play and, came up with 15 points, 15 very valuable points.
Right. So for me, my thing right now is just to be, like a veteran presence on the team. I've had some years of playing professional basketball. For me at this stage, it's not about going out there and getting, the greatest stat line ever. I'm a good player. These things will happen. I will score the basketball. I will rebound,
Mhm,
But my whole thing now is the pride behind putting on a Jamaica jersey. You go out there, you're doing the small things. Like I said, I started off slow. I did not let that, kind of get
mhm,
in my head. I have to go try to create something out of nothing. I kind of let the game come to me. Playing off a Norm again, being the guy that is gonna garner the most attention. He would find me on a few passes. I'm wide open. Okay, these are shots that I work on. These are shots that I'm taking with confidence and shots that I made. So for me, like I said, it's just coming in and being someone that my teammates could rely on, someone that the coach could rely on, for a sense of stability and leadership.
mhm. The second game and third game, I want to kind of lump them together because I understand that after the first game, you guys came down with some issues,
Yeah.
that really impacted performance. Talk to me about what happened with that.
So I could give you my experience, right? When we got to Mexico, everyone is saying just be careful what you eat and different things like that. Uh, Not thinking too much of it. You're going in, you're eating whatever is provided, and this probably has nothing to do with the host and how they catered to the players' needs. It probably was just us not being used to the water, for example, so stuff like
Mm,
that. I'm not saying there was any ill intent or anything like that, but something happened for me, though, the very first game at halftime, I felt, a little queasy. I felt nauseous during the game. So I just chalked it up to like an upset stomach or something like that. At one point, I was standing over by the bench asking for a sub because I just did not feel well. My energy level was low, a little dizzy. But we fight through that because the adrenaline is gonna get you through. You're
mhm,
representing your country. This is the first game. You know you need a win because if not, it's going to be an uphill battle because we play Costa Rica and then you play the host team. So we knew we had to find a way to finish that game and finish strong. So adrenaline and that pure desire got us through or got me through that first game. Now at the end of the game, we went to the locker room and we're doing a team stretch. I couldn't even stand up to finish the stretch. Lightheaded,
wow.
nauseous. Um, Long story short, get back to the hotel and it was, you know, sick, throwing up, diarrhea, just the whole nine for the rest of that night. Luckily we called the doctor. They got me some medicine that night. Took some, I forget the name of these medicines, but I took some medication that night. Did not feel well the next morning, still the same symptoms. They called the doctor. The doctor came in. Um, I said it was some type of like bacteria.
Mm.
I even went as far as getting a shot, an injection to be able to play that second game. Didn't even make it to shoot around in the morning with the team. You know, I'm surprised I was able to play that second game or even the third because the way I felt, and then I couldn't, after that first game, I didn't eat anything. Didn't eat anything the following day all the way up to game time. So it was about 20 plus hours with no food, just weak. All I took was that
Wow.
that injection they gave me and some electrolytes that I was trying to drink. But that's behind us now. The good thing is we were able to go out there, and I wasn't the only one being being sick.
Hmm.
Norm was also sick. Same thing happened to him. We had some coaches who came down with that, and even now some players are reporting some of the same symptoms after they left Mexico, which it probably was a delayed response to whatever it was. But it's almost working its way through the team.
Okay, which kind of explains probably the performance where, Costa Rica was giving you guys a hard time,
Right,
which, I mean, look, I don't think anybody knew what to expect from Costa Rica from a spectator standpoint. But
right.
certainly, given how well you guys played against Barbados,
Mhm.
the fact that you had a big enough lead, and then Costa Rica rallied later, and you guys that pushing him into overtime, that
Right.
must have been a significant challenge, and given the physical challenges that you guys were facing.
Yeah, man, definitely, definitely. Because I had no idea if I could play that game just by how I felt. I ended up playing what, maybe 30 minutes that game. When I looked at the box score and I saw the minutes, I'm looking like, wow. So now we have to rally and look at Mexico. But for the Costa Rica game, I think that had something to do with it. It's sports. You either find a way to get it done or you don't. Nobody really cares about what's going on other than the
It's a
win
real
column
thing.
or the loss column. So, it played a part. It had an impact on how the players were able to go out there and compete. Obviously, everyone was not at 100%. But at the end of the day, what matters is that we went and we got to win. That's all that really counts. If we would have lost the game, nobody cares. If you drop them dead, nobody
Yeah,
really cares.
for
So,
real.
you know,
Understood. And of course, with the Mexico game, it probably was worse because I don't think Norman played that game as
yeah,
well.
no, no. He had to obviously seek medical attention, so that kind of took him out for that game. Um, but what he was able to do for us, the game, especially in Costa Rica, he had a monstrous game, even the way he felt. It's no small feat what he did coming in there, not being able to eat, being weak. You could see it in the locker room because we sat next to each other in the locker room leading up to that game, and we're talking to each other like, look, man, whatever it looked like, we just have to go out there and get this one, and then whatever happens after that, we should be fine. So that was the conversation going into that game. Just find a way to do whatever it takes to get this one. We knew. I'm not gonna say we knew we were the better team, but we had that confidence, right? That coming off the game we just had, going up against Costa Rica, we feel like we could compete with them and get the better of this team. So we had that in our heads, but we just didn't know how tough that was going to be. Coming down to the last 15 seconds, we had a couple free throws to even take the lead, missed those. Tips, a couple tips. I had maybe two. We missed that.
Yeah.
Normally, those are baskets that I finish. Anything around the rim right there with a touch, it stuff that I finished. But it was an off night for pretty much everyone. But like I said,
Mhm.
the most important thing, we got a W out of that. So
And then it got worse for Mexico because, like,
right,
no
yeah.
Norman, and of course feeling sick.
And
You know,
then more guys starting to feel sick now.
yeah, but 61, 90 to 61. I mean, Mexico used the runner in the game after the second half, after the
Right.
third quarter, because you guys rallied in the second quarter after Mexico had
A
built
slow,
up a
yeah.
significant lead, yeah,
Right.
in the first quarter. But coming away from that outcome, we understand the circumstances. Both of your teams, both teams qualified for the qualifiers.
Hmm.
But given how well you played, considering the illness and the circumstances, you know, I'm sure you guys, including yourself, must have come away with some level of confidence, even going into the next phase of no, the qualifiers themselves, because Jamaica is up against top teams like the Bahamas, Puerto Rico,
Puerto Rico, right?
and things. So it doesn't get easier,
Right,
and the reality is that you might be without NBA players because of the scheduling here.
right.
Um, so I want to get your feedback on that. And secondly, do you think FIBA needs to change the rules to allow time for the NBA players to become available? Because it seems to be disadvantageous to teams from the Caribbean, especially with the scheduling. I don't know. I've been looking at it and realizing that they are not likely to be playing.
Right. So the first part, as far as how we what we took away from this tournament heading into the qualifiers, is that it's never going to be easy. All these teams have played at that level. We're the underdogs in most of these cases, most of these games. So it gives us a reference of what it actually looks like to play in these type of competitions and know the level of talent that we're going up against and to show that we have said talent and we have said level. So it's just up to us to prepare the right way going into these games, having the right mindset, and all these intangibles that you don't really see on the stat sheets because obviously we can win games. We've done it. It's just a matter of replicating that and doing the small things over and over the right way. When it comes to the FIBA rule and all of that stuff, that that one is a bit above my pay grade because when you get involved with NBA teams and wanting to protect their players for the season, and those are their assets in a sense. They probably won't want to jeopardize that in any way. So I'm sure well, I can't say that, but it would be a tough one to say. We would love to have NBA players all year round, right? Because obviously the level of competition would significantly improve. Not that the rest of the guys aren't talented, but the NBA players are the best players in the world. That's just the truth. We would love to have them year round, but again, these teams are paying them so much money.
Yep.
I'm not sure they want to risk these guys getting injured.
All right, cool. Of course, we're talking to Kentan Facey, a member of Jamaica's historic basketball team that qualified for the FIBA World Cup qualifiers or the pre-qualifiers right on August 8th to 10th in Mexico. Of course, remember to like, subscribe, and of course, share content from our channel, Mr. Analyst. You can go on to YouTube and find the channel there. So, of course, thank you, Kentan, for the time. And of course, we're looking forward to hearing more from Jamaica. Of course, that's it for this episode on Miss Analyst. Guys, of course, remember to subscribe to the channel. Of course, like and share. Leave your comments as well. We're looking forward to hearing from you because we always take into account what your comments are and of course try to improve and to get better for each and every show. So thank you again, and of course, until next time, this is Lee saying goodbye.